welcome to the AOS crowd. My name is Quin, and welcome to your favorite hobby and competitive channel. Today I'm joined by a very, very special guest, Toby.
Hello. Hello.
Toby,
Hello, everyone.
tell everyone a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I think most people know me by now in the community, but I'm Tobias Schwarz. I'm the captain for this year for the team Germany. So for the Worlds team for Team Germany, and I'm also quite active in international play, fairly active, I would say. And yeah, and this time, I went with Benedict to the topic of the video.
Yes, today we're bringing you exclusive news from the German tabletop or club championship, the German Vereinsmeisterschaften. Basically, the event was held in Kassel in Germany. It's the second time they held this event. They did it last year as well. Yeah, pretty much. I'm drawing a blank. Oh no. I am drawing a blank.
What are you thinking about?
Well, basically, it's 22 clubs. It's a 5-player team event. And clubs from all over Germany and Austria come together to duke it out for the title of Club Championship for an entire year. There is a gigantic trophy for the winners,
Yes.
on which the club's name is engraved, and then next year it's passed on to the next winners, etc., etc. But since it's only been held once before, we've only had one Passover, which we will get to at some point in the video, or even in part 2, if you want to check that out. So, first and foremost, something that might be worth mentioning, the battlescroll dropped today. Impressive, it's only 130 days late, but they managed to do it. There will be a video on that as soon as I can get Phil and Math to join me. They're both pretty occupied. So, as soon as everything's settled, everybody's thrown out their crazy new list ideas, we'll get straight on reviewing the battlescroll. So, just a little bit more of an event preview. Last year, Toby and I attended with our local club, basically, the Storytellers, and we had a pretty good result, right, Toby?
Yeah, it probably couldn't have been better. So, yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, last year we attended, didn't necessarily plan on, well, we were planning and hoping on performing well, but we didn't expect it to go that well. Last year we made second place. I think we were the highest in the 4-1 bracket.
Yeah.
So we just lost out by virtue of not winning all of our 5 matches. And yeah, last year we were joined by a very good team, very consistent players, especially in our local community. They've held countless tournaments over the years, and they've established themselves as a pretty consistent and well-oiled gaming machine, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just important to note on this team event, unlike most of the other international team events, this was wins first. So basically, you count together all the team points, but then the team that wins against the opponent team gets a win, and then it's Swiss system, just like in singles. So then the ones with the most wins play against each other. So therefore, we got second place. Well, we probably would have gone second place anyway, but we've got second place because we were the best in 4-1 and there was 1-5 no team. Yeah. And that's it.
So last year we basically lost out to the one club that performed really, really well. Last year it was the Kriegsmottek team who won the event eventually. We didn't get to play them. Our only loss was against the, as Toby already mentioned, the players from Dice Dealer, exactly.
Yeah.
Which German city are they based from?
Uh, something in the northwest. Don't ask me. They're I'm the captain, but I don't know all the location of every club. But yeah, but somewhere in the northwest, which is for us in the south is basically a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different worlds basically.
Yeah. And
So
they did very well
yeah,
this year as well, by the way.
exactly.
They got third, yeah.
We'll get to that at some point though. But first and foremost, considering last year's results, we were pretty stoked and pretty amped to get back into it. Two of
Yeah.
our players, or it was the first team tournament for two of our players, both of which were very eager to get back into it. But over the year, one of those players unfortunately lost a little bit of motivation playing Age of Sigmar, grew frustrated with changes that were made to his armies, and he basically grew so frustrated that in November, practically 2.5 months before list submission, he basically said, I'm not feeling up for the challenge to defend our second place. You should probably look for somebody else to go in my stead. And we did look for someone else, and we found one basically immediately. Another player in our club stepped up and said that he would be willing to play. He's a very good player, had established himself also at some of these tournaments. And yeah, so all the way from November through December, we were busy playing our lists, preparing for events. I was very preoccupied with Brotherhood and a couple of other team tournaments that were happening right after. So I did get a lot of practice in. But in the middle of all of this, a second player unfortunately had to drop. It was in the middle of exam week, and he couldn't necessarily risk his academic career falling into peril because he wants to play War Dollies, which is understandable, but also, like, come on.
Yeah.
And that was a week before list submission?
Yeah, about I think 1.5 or
Yeah.
1.5 or something.
But basically, it was bad.
Yeah, it was quite annoying. Yeah.
Especially since one can consider him to be one of the best players of the region. That's for sure.
I would say so. Yeah, so I think worth to note is that probably, especially internationally, there's sometimes big clubs, right? Our club is like a few players, and the very competitive players are very few. So, and we are still actually quite far away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you would drive 3 hours to my place probably.
Yes.
So just for for people to know. So we are basically not that. We don't play all the time. We try to play sometimes, but it's not like we can play every week. We don't have like a clubhouse or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we just met up once or twice. We go to the same tournaments in the area, of course. But there are not many. It sounds like many, but it's basically probably two a year or something. Maybe if you drive 3 hours, then you can get a few more in.
Yeah.
So it's not a competitive region, let's say, of Germany and Austria, just because it's very it's not densely populated at all.
Basically, a lot of
that's
mountains.
Yeah, a lot of mountains, a lot of nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. And then therefore we were still quite lucky that we got these people. They already knew, yes, we might not be the best players ever, because they didn't play that many tournaments. I think the only ones who actively go to a lot of tournaments are me and you.
Yeah.
Whereas the others are just competitive, yes, but not super not in the high scoring. So therefore, that was probably also a bit our expectation, that maybe we will not be the best, and it will be a harder time to defend our second title. And
Yes.
so So we were still looking forward to going, just because it's a great event.
A great
But
atmosphere as well.
great atmosphere. We meet lots of friends that we made not just the last time, but we meet all the time on the tournament scene. But we didn't go in there thinking we would win. We were going for, let's just do the best we can, and
Yeah.
that's it. And then we are happy.
Yeah. Considering we had mighty dropouts
Yeah.
from our roster, I think we were content on like top 8, top 5 performance.
Yeah, yeah.
And something that's also worth noting is that out of the players that eventually did attend the tournament, only Toby and I regularly play Tabletop Simulator, which is a great practice and training tool, as well as a testing tool for lists, whereas the other players mainly sort of actually played in person, but not that often.
Yeah.
Yeah, so considering we had a couple of dropouts and the event limitations for list building, basically we were limited to 2 core battalions within a team, but it could be duplicated within the same list. So basically,
Yes.
2 battle regs across the team, no duplication of universal enhancements, no duplication of grand strategies, and we had to pick 2 book strategies. Or no, it was
up to only
up to,
you can only have
to.
up to 2 book strategies. So I think so the limitations were way tighter than in usual team events, especially internationally, with the first of all the only maximum 2 grand strategies from the book. So this just for people who don't know, that's basically if you have a siege army and you have a, let's say, ogre's army, you can take ready for plunder, you can take the destiny dice one, but then if you have a third army that wants to have their grand strategy like KO, then one of them has to miss out on it, and you have to take one of the GHB ones. So you have to at least have 3 of the GHB ones, and I think that was a bit of a It's a challenge. It's a challenge, especially in discussing who gets what, and even versus, of course, what Benedict mentioned, the battalion choices. Maximum 2 battle regiments, maximum, which was the toughest part, I think, and then but also keeping in mind maximum 2 warlords, of course, command entourage, but 2 Antorian acolytes is sometimes an issue for some people, and then the usual Hoarfrost Blizzard problem.
Yeah.
You have in a team.
That's always the worst.
Which was funny because at the start it was a problem, and then at the end we didn't even have Blizzard in any of our armies.
Yes,
and we also didn't have the Shaman of the Chilled Lands in the end.
Yeah, and I think the player who got Hoarfrost in the end only cast it once.
Once in all his games in one phase, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is funny.
So basically, our roster started out with typical, with what we had played over the year. Toby was set on Khorne, I believe.
Yeah.
One of our players, Marco, was planning on going with Lumineth, same as last year. We had, and the 2 players who were very concerned about their armies, one of which eventually dropped, played Sylvaneth, and the other played, I think it was Soulblight at the time, but he was eager to get into cities as well. So we weren't necessarily sure what we were going to do 3 months prior to the event. And then when our Soulblight player decided to drop, the person who stepped up basically said he'll play Tzeentch or Sylvaneth, and didn't leave much wiggle room with what we could work with as the ones concerned with getting the team to a somewhat formative figure.
Yeah, I think to be fair to him, he did say that he will just play what's needed from he will play without stuff, but I think in general that it's not specifically now for him, so don't feel attacked, but in general for some people it's hard if they never went to a team event to write a teams list compared to a singles list, because people always think like, oh, I need to be good against everything, or what happens if this comes? I need to have something against this. And then also with the limitations in mind, everyone wants to have the best of all, but
Yeah.
of course that's not possible. And if you have, and we had at the beginning, we had the problem with, we wanted to maybe go with Zinj and Lumineth, but
Yeah.
they need the same endless spells. They both like Blizzard, stuff like this. So there's a lot of duplications there. So yeah,
It was pretty rough in preparation for the event. I think we did find a amicable solution at first, and then the other Sylvaneth player who wanted to play Sylvaneth from the start had a crisis of faith and then decided he wanted to play Nurgle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he wasn't sure, and I just told him, well, if you're not sure, you can and if you don't have that much practice time, just go with an army that is not super hard to play, but you already have it, you already played it before. And then we took a pretty standard Nurgle list in the end, but that was not too hard to play either. Not that it's super easy, but just you don't need that many reps to get into it, which is, I think, in this case good, because he's also lots of our players are not people who can play four games a week.
Yeah.
They don't play that much, so because they of course have family and everything, right? So it's harder. And I think in the end, we'll come to that later, but in the end he was quite happy with his choice, and I think over the practice games that we did, the few we did, he definitely grew more to the list.
Yeah. And as the preparation went on, the player who offered to fill gaps settled on Sylvaneth. Not necessarily a conventional list, I'd say.
Yeah.
Of course, with Belthanos and a couple other tidbits, but he also ran Durthu and the Lady of Vines.
Yeah, and Warsong Revenant.
And the Warsong Revenant.
And Tree Lord Ancient.
Yes.
So it was a hero hammery list, but with a bit unconventional hero hammer picks with Lady of Vines and Warsong. Is when usually you would probably see a Lariel in there, maybe even a Godtrek, right? Whereas this was this was a different take, and in the end he did very well with it. But
yes.
We'll come to that later. Yeah.
Especially since at first he was pretty salty about not being able to take the battle regiment, because it was first allotted to me, because I definitely wanted to play Knight Judicators. Yeah. And play them I did, exactly as I played them at Brotherhood, if you want to, although with a slight alteration to Grand Strat, but we'll get to that later. You can check that video out at some point up there. Yeah. And then finally, when our second player dropped, Lumineth dropped, who had the other one drop allocated to him, and Blizzard, and all the shenanigans he wanted. Yeah. It basically opened up a lot of resources for the rest of the team, but we were already sort of settled on our lists, sort of ready with reps.
It was 1 week before list submission, so we didn't want to change too much. And we also talked about it, and in the end, we didn't, even a Sylvaneth didn't even need Hoarfrost in the end.
Yeah.
And so our last person got it. We haven't mentioned yet.
Yes. The last player, bless his heart for jumping in so quickly, and thank every single one of the Chaos Gods that he actually played a list he wanted to, a list he got into very quickly, with a faction he loves, and a faction that I personally love, Ogre Maw Tribes. Last year, I ran Kragnos and 4 Tyrants, and this year, he ran the classic 1-drop. Frostlever and Stonehorn, a Butcher, a Firebelly, 2 units of Gluttons, 2 units of Iron Guts, Noblars, and an Iron Blaster.
Yeah, so rather bless the Great Maul, I guess.
Yes. Exactly.
Bless the Chaos God in that case.
At this point, I'm taking any blessing.
Yeah, it was definitely a wild list. It was probably, thinking back, and well, not just thinking back, but it is probably not the most competitive list you can take out of everyone.
Yeah.
But we were just happy, first of all, to have a player to play.
Yes,
Reason
that's
number
true.
one. We didn't have much time to prep anything else. He played this list on events before and has multiple games with it. So we were just like, let's just go with it. It can still do something.
Yes.
It can do probably almost nothing as good as other armies maybe could. Like there's always an army that can do that specific thing better. But it's just a bunch of fat lads that can stand on objectives and can score actually decent because of that. And it has, and I think that's what we'll come to later when we do the pairings and how everyone did. Is it still has a for some people surprising amount of damage with Iron Guts. So just flat out damage without any buffs. They still have quite good damage.
Yeah.
If they don't die, of course, and so on.
Yeah, but it's fat lads. They don't die.
It's still.
I think this list choice in particular struck me as the one odd thing out, I think, because it's so heavily skewed as, in my opinion, a singles list. Because you can run this at an event and pair into matches that are still kind of rough, but you can always like punch out a couple points and still manage to perform somewhat well with it.
Yeah. Quite funny because he went to the Raccoon Rumble with the same list. So that was the biggest tournament here in Germany last year. And he didn't do massive, but the funny thing is I think he had 2 wins by 1 point or 2 points.
Yeah.
And 2 losses by the same amount, I think. And then he had 2 draws or something. Something around that region. So he was the most average player. Not in a bad sense here. Because that's still pretty good with the ogres ever. And so we were like, well, if it's a team event and he just gets it against any army, that actually sounds good.
Yeah.
So for a team event, so we were like, well, let's just try it. And,
we ended up having one single practice day as well, where we had like 3 games against one another. We were testing a couple of matchups. Some were reinforced, some were reconsidered. And I think at the end of it, we were sort of ready-ish, one could suspect. And the final composition was we had Sylvaneth, as we said, Hero Hamler list, pretty smashy in a bazillion drops with who knows what type of enhancement. I can't even recall.
I think he had a second artifact, so for those to strike.
Oh yeah.
For the sword, and then
exactly.
He had was it the Vossung Revenant living on a 2-up reviving?
I think that might have been it. Either that or the autocast.
Oh yeah, one of the two.
One of those two, because Sylvaneth players rarely leave the house with either. Which is justified, honestly. Great artifacts, both of them.
And then we had, I'm just gonna jump in there, and then we had me with my Khorne list, which is, of course, Khorne is definitely top meta at the moment, but a bit more unconventional. It's basically a very aggressive list with 3 Thirsters. Well, 2 Thirsters and Scarbrand and some cannons. So very demon heavy, very aggressive, but very fun to play and can win big. And that's I think also what we kind of wanted. In this one. So my list can definitely win big, and yours, which we come to now, can do exactly the same.
Yes. Similar to my Brotherhood list, the intent here was to basically have Night Judicators shoot off anything from a bazillion miles away without actually directly engaging the enemy. I think I've had enough games over the past couple of weeks, months even, perfecting the strategy a little bit. And basically, as Toby already mentioned, the intent is smash opponents off, win big,
Yeah.
and then the rest of the team can battle for every single point they can get. Because that was our mindset going into it. We weren't necessarily expecting to perform badly, but we weren't expecting to perform ultra well. So if the other 3 players on our team could all lose by 1 point, and we won both of our games pretty high, we could still grab a win for the rest of the team. Even though the performance wasn't necessarily relying on the team entirely, but more so the results of the smash lists.
Yeah, I think it's a mix. But if you do have 2 20-0s, of course, even if all the other games lose, as Benedict said, you can win. As long as you don't lose 2-0 again, right? As long as you get some points out of these, and you can win the round with five matchups. So that's why we had some smash lists and some scoring lists, you could say. In this one. And our 2 lists were definitely the smash lists, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Even though we didn't necessarily get all the tools we wanted, I did want Spellcasting Savant as my grand strat.
Got it.
I got Baron Icescape.
Baron Icescape, yeah.
Yes.
Which in the end, I'm not sure. So when you table the opponent anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
But only if you do.
Yes.
Because otherwise you will be in the middle.
Yeah.
Usually.
I did score it in 4 out of 5 games.
Yeah. So you tabled your opponent in 4 out of 5 games, so you scored it. Same for me. I had the slot of sorcery, which is usual for Khorne, and I guess if you don't play spawn Khorne, but I had slot of sorcery, and it was basically the same thing. If I table my opponent, it doesn't really matter because he doesn't have any wizards left, so I score it. Yeah.
3 free points.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had the Nurgle list.
Monster Mash.
Which is basically a Monster Mash list. Wasn't people who watched this video probably have seen the list before. It's basically Glotkin, Great Unclean One, two Maggot Lords.
No, just
usually,
one.
Yeah, and in our list it was actually 1 Maggot Lord and Be'lakor.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had some Plague Bearers as battle line.
And
that's the list. And it was there to play as a defender on the battle plans that it's good on, like no reward without risk, Frigid Zephyr, everything that has not many objectives. You just stand in the middle, counter charge, deny points. And in this version, we had Be'lakor in just for the same reason. It's maybe, I think you can switch around a lot in this list. It does get better in some aspects and some not. But Be'lakor here was fine for us. He's good at staying back, doing magical dominance, and just being faster than anyone flying forward. And in some matchups, it's just denying 2 points can be big, especially because our game plan was, as we discussed, me and Benedict win, and the other guys just score points. And if your opponent can score 1 battle tactic less, that's already a swing, already 1 point in the matrix in the end. So it's more likely that the team wins. So that was our going with Be'lakor, the reason. And we did it as we discussed. We always we'll come later to that, but we always paired him on battle plan where he's good on, and then he didn't win all the time, but he did very well, and we always got good points.
Yeah.
And worked well. And he also liked the list, which I'm as a captain, this list I kind of gave to him. I sometimes do that, but that was just for him this time. And I'm always concerned that they prep this list and in the end they don't like it. So they wasted a bunch of time for prepping a list that they don't like, and then they have to play a tournament with it, and that just feels bad because I want my players to have fun.
Yeah.
We all want to have fun. That's our reason to be there, especially because we weren't going in winning. So I was very happy that even before the event, he said that he actually likes the list. So very happy with that. Yeah.
He did have a great time as well. And
yeah, he did. Yeah.
ahead of the tournament, we joked that he was the only one of our team playing a meta list.
Yeah, which is the fun part, yeah.
Yeah, since all of our other choices were not necessarily a conventional one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I think especially from armies, I mean, of course, my army would have been, the list I took, definitely not. And then the other armies, Stormcast, Sylvaneth, and Ogres, are definitely not top meta at all.
yeah. But then again, in the capable hands of tournament players, they might just pull out a couple of wins.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In the end, I think, well, we haven't talked about the Ogre list. I've mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. The great Ogre 1-drop. Smack. Get in there. Take objectives. Kick names. Take ass. Something like that. And,
And I think we used it exactly as we planned to in this case, because originally we had the Luminav, which is a targeted pick, you could say, against armies, as it's very strong against certain matchup where it just can control the battlefield, or just have lots of hero killing potential, etc. And then now a complete opposite is now the Ogre list, which is basically I just do damage and stand around.
Mm-hmm.
And try to get in as soon as possible and score. So just something what we did, we threw it into every matchup, and I don't think it's something negative to say we threw him under the bus basically all the games. But the important bit is he was fine with it and he scored well. Of course, he had very hard matchups. Scored well.
Yes, that's true.
I think he went in the end 2-3.
3-2, actually.
Oh, 3-2 actually. Oh, that's pretty good, yeah. Even though he had harder matchups, or harder battle plans, or both, mostly both.
Yeah.
But that still helps the team a lot. If you can get 5 points out of a horrible matchup for everyone else, very good. Very good, actually.
Yeah. I think the mentality of the other 3 players going into the tournament was like, we can all score our average points. We don't care if we lose. We don't care if we win. We just need to score our set amount of points in the matrix each round. Yeah. And Toby and Benedict are just gonna smash opponents off, and we'll be fine. Everything's gonna be just fine.
That mindset is actually quite. So it sounds easy, but it's actually quite hard for tournament players to have that one, because everyone has a bit of an ego and everyone kind of wants to win, right? So of course these players try to win their best, but not getting. If you got beaten 3 times in a row in a tournament, then not getting depressed about it, right?
Yeah.
It can be quite tough for players, and so that was very nice that everyone still had a great time. Even though, they had tougher matchups, right?
Yeah. But that was basically our intent going into everything. I think every single one of the other players agreed that they'd score, 7 points at least each round. Some of them achieved it. I think everyone achieved it actually.
No, I think the Ogre player once went under 7, I think. Right?
Yeah, but it averages out.
On average, everyone had at least 7 points each game.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
And I think that is also something really great for a team captain to see. Like the players setting themselves goals that they can achieve, maybe lowballing it a bit so that the result in the end, their expectation is just that much bolstered as well. So
I agree. So same. We were joking about this with the Ogre player because he played so even at the tournament. He's like, I'm just gonna get 7 points out of every game. So that was his goal. It wasn't even to win. He's just wanting 7 points out of every game at least. He didn't get it every game, but on the average, it averaged it out in the end. So he, in a sense, he achieved his goal.
Yes.
That was still great, and I think just this mentality. If anyone goes to a team tournament and they are like the maybe not their top player, but still having a goal like that to help the team is very very good. And then as a team, if you want to, you should also support this as a team, and then congratulate them when they do. Even they lost, but they got good points. That's as good as someone who wins their green matchup 20-0.
Yeah.
That's the same amount, if not better, because if you have an easy matchup, everyone can win. But if you have a hard matchup,
And you can smash
it's,
out enough points.
yeah, that's often even tougher.
Yeah.
Yep.
And going into the event as well, we knew the sort of field we were entering. We had the champions from last year, Kriegsmottek Mainz, wonderful players altogether and great blokes, terribly good players as well. We had the Dice-Stile, against whom we played last year, going into the event as one of the favorites. The Kellerkinder, which had a new amalgamation of German top players. I think Daniel was in there, Tristan and Colin. Those that are out and about in the international scene may know them as well.
They basically had out of 4 Worlds players from last year. So we had last year's Worlds, so 4 out of 5 players from them were Worlds players last year. So they definitely had a stacked team.
Yeah, that's for sure. And a couple of other big names were out there and playing, so we were pretty antsy to get into the tournament. And when they did the pairing stream for the first round, we were really eager to see who we were going up against, especially since nobody was going to be able to counter our Ogre 1-drop.
Yeah. I was trying to hype the list up as much as possible and make everyone scared of it. I'm not sure if it worked in the end. Probably not. But he went 3-2 with it. So next year everyone should be scared of them.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, before we get into the round 1, I think we've got a lot covered already. Just say thank you everybody so much for watching. Part 2 will be out a few days after this, where we will talk about our rounds, our matchups, how everything went, and what the end result was. But yeah, while you are waiting for that, I can highly recommend you watch our Brotherhood vlog, part 1, part 2 as well, and our newest video, Phil's review of Bloodshed in the Shires, where he takes Gits out for a spin. I can highly recommend it. His insights into the list are very interesting and refreshing. So, from Toby and I will just say thank you everybody so much for watching, and I will see you in part 2. Goodbye! Bye.